Okay, so this is almost like part 3 to this drama that I have with Google. So, this will be the last bit that I'll talk about this. That video I put up yesterday about Good Friends Everywhere Walk, one of the photographers was actually a lawyer. And he told me not to mention his name. Well, that's fine. I showed him the email I got from Google, and he brought up a very good point. He said it was a circumvention, and I'll put that down the bottom. It was a circumvention policy by Google. So we both did some research on that, and Google thought I was the person that was banned about 4 years ago, and we found out who that person was. Now that's part 1. And part 2, we talked about the mental health and how we can do that on Google. All right, so we're going to keep this short. We'll start with the beginning. 24 years ago, my last child was born, my daughter, and my surname does not have any males to inherit my name. So I am the last Beltane. When I die, that name ends with me. So I registered my name as a domain, and that was 24 years ago, and I still have that domain. What I'm trying to do for the last 24 years is create a legacy so that my future generation, my family, will actually know what I was like. And what I'm trying to do in ATM Lens is help people be more creative. Now, let's get back to the point. I'm going to try and get these lights out from behind my head. Here they go. What this legal man said to me was, have you had an issue with your name in the past? And that got me thinking. I've been writing since pretty much since the 80s, but I started getting published. I've got 5 books, publications done since 2014. And I said, in February 2014, I registered my name with KDP. Now, if you don't know, KDP is Kindle Direct Publishing, which is a chapter of Amazon. Now, that was February 2014. What happened in November 2014, another person showed up, who I call the Cincinnati Kid, who was in America. He's nearly 20 years younger than me. And he tried to claim my name. It took a little bit of work with Kindle, but they realised with my driver's license and all my identity that I was Jack Beltane. And that seemed to go away. I then spent the next 4 years to 2018, not every day or anything, but once or twice a year, I tried to contact that other person. That other person had an Instagram, a Facebook, a YouTube, and they kept clashing in with my name. So I mentioned that to the lawyer, right? And the lawyer came back and said, quite simply, we'll use his phone, like the lawyer's phone, not my phone. And he did a research on it. Now, the simple thing with that research, as of 2021, that other individual, the Cincinnati Kid, vanished off the internet. Either went to the dark web or just vanished. All we could find in 2022 was that person on a satanic rock site promoting doomsday and the end of the world after COVID kind of thing. But after that, they vanished. However, they did end the world and vanish. Their YouTube was deleted as well. So that was the point the lawyer made. When their YouTube was deleted, the AI that's running around at the moment checking out our names has confused the two of us, me over here in Australia and them over there in America. Thankfully, I got that email at 12:06, which you might know, and by 2:06, I had sent the appeal in. This is in the morning, not afternoon, and it was 2:46, about 40 minutes later, the appeal had been looked at by Google, and they had agreed. I am the real person, and I have never had an account before. Right. So we'll end that point there. Point number 2. I showed him the 23 emails I got about mental health, which I put up on that video the other day. And it's always good to get a second eye look at things. He looked at it and he said to me, once again, read the fine print. And I think half the problem when you read something like this is, if it's hitting you hard, you get emotional and you don't read the fine print. And I read the fine print and I said, I'm not sure. And he said, those 23 emails, they want you to get monetized. I said, yes, I know. And I've said no to getting monetized. And he said, they're just laying down the rules. If you get monetized, you're not allowed to talk about diabetes. You're not allowed to talk about Wegovy, Osmapix, semaglutide, as it's known. You're not allowed to talk about self-harm or suicide without actually providing documentation to Google that you are qualified in the field you're talking about. You can talk about personal experiences using those products, but you can't actually... So you've got to put the disclaimer in. So he reckons I am perfectly right and within my legal challenge to keep talking about mental health. Now, me being the eternal optimist, is thinking the safest way to go forward on all this is to dedicate this channel to showing how I use creativity to help my brain stay healthy, and try and use a little less of the self-harm, mental health, diabetes words, and we'll see how this channel goes in a month. If I've suddenly disappeared, we were both wrong and that they've decided to bugger off this little Aussie. Anyway, people, I'm going to get out of this little forecourt before some security guard comes and boots me out, but I thought, why not hang around an 1860s building and feel a bit retro? Stay tuned, because I've got to talk about ultraverts, and I've got a few things to talk about that I will put up in the coming future. And as you've noticed, I've also brought a typewriter because I'm going back to doing writing again. Anyway, stay safe, have fun. Ciao, people.